I think that maybe some of you know better and maybe some not so much, but we Finns are great tunnel builders. We have a huge number of tunnels and caverns for several purposes. Compared to how many people we are living in Finland, I would say that we have probably the biggest number of different kind of tunnels in the world compared to amount of people living here in Finland. And maybe there are two reasons for that. First one being that we have hard rock here, and hard rock typically is easier to excavate than soft rock. We don't need so much supporting and linings for hard rock, and therefore it has been a long tradition to do also caverns and tunnels underground. And maybe another reason is Soviet Union. During the 50s and 60s and even 70s, we were a little afraid of Soviet Union, and therefore we did do a lot of tunnels underground because of our safety. And during normal time, we can use those tunnels to other purposes, and that's maybe also one reason why we do have so many tunnels for different purposes, for example, parking places and swimming pools and a lot of other things. And so in Finland we have also a lot of mines. And for example, in Pyhäsalmi mine, that's the deepest mine in the Europe. It's about 1.4 kilometers deep. And then for the nuclear waste, so the waste from nuclear reactors, we Finns have been very followed the rules very strictly, and therefore we have our project for spent fuel repository, meaning spent fuel from nuclear reactors. It's the first one in the world. It's the only one by now that do have a construction license. The construction works are ongoing there, and that will start to operate around in year 2023 or 24, and at that time it will be the first one in the world. And every country in the world will need to do that kind of repository, but we are also forerunners on that field. And I would say, so technically we Finns are one of the number ones in the world, I would say. And so this project, now this tunnel project to Tallinn, it's not at all impossible. Of course there are challenges, but if we break this project to smaller parts, I would say that each of those things that need to be done underground here has been done somewhere in the world earlier. So technically this is very doable, we can do this project. And probably the biggest challenges will be permits, money and politics, not technical things. So and that's the field where we still have to do. So maybe that was, and by now in our project, this tunnel project is in a very early design phase. We are looking for more alternatives now and comparing alternatives, and yeah, maybe that was.
I know
shortly.
about your representing.
Yeah. So my name is Timo Saanio, and I'm from A-Insinöörit Ains Group, and our company here is representing tunnel design together with Pöyry.
Yes, and I can also introduce myself. I'm from Arto Vegers from Pöyry, and also involved for this project.
Yeah, please.
Have you ever heard a tunnel project called Länsimetro, Westmetro? It has been very successful.
Yeah.
Really important time.
Have you heard about the tunnel project in Tampere?
Yes, what this SRV tunnel?
So basically, we will build this on time, on budget, probably actually faster and below budget.
But my question was in real. And may I introduce, I'm Jatta Salmi, I've been working with you at Sefana Tiletraka.
Yeah.
But maybe you have Peter came
Yes, I live in Espoo and I took the metro here and it was very fast.
I wanted that you say it.
Yeah.
Have you ever been in Keilaniemi and Itäranta?
Yes,
Physically, standing there like this?
in Keilaranta.
Yes.
Yes, today in the morning at
Do you know that
yeah.
do you know that there are 1,500 people living in Itäranta, which is 60 meters from that where are you planning those houses actually for construction structures? Do you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Yeah, there are just zero questionnaires that has gone to inhabitants in last 5 or 6 years. I've been working at Keilaniemi also, but just for, it has not been open and it has been very secret and the presentation has been only for school kids and students. So zero questionnaires for inhabitants and who those Espoo inhabitants who actually work there and pay for example current tunnel project. Just for
So the question is what?
For information.
Yeah, but
Now you know.
yeah, I'm afraid that I can't claim responsibility for other people's doing. But
Mention that it is open when it has not been open. And you have not been.
I can help.
but one thing that just want to comment here that I think that what we're doing here is like super open, and again, you know, I can't change history or what other people have been doing, but this is something that we're doing very openly, very transparently. We started sharing the plans about the tunnel project, about the stations very early, and the intent, of course, is to avoid these kind of comments that, oh, nobody told me that there's going to be like a tall building in my neighborhood. And I think that this is again what we don't want to have, and that's why we're openly sharing this. And
I now will invite you to Tapiola.
Yeah. Peter, I can help here.
yes, but again, I have been working in Keilaniemi, I've been working in Espoo, I have been in that, like walking around there, like many times at different times of the day, so I know exactly. And I think that if you look at the Keilaniemi, if you want to get stuck on that, it's super bad planning. So nobody can be proud of that like area.
But it's going on like super bad.
No. Did you talk already?
Yes, now we are talking about the town planning process here, and that is a very wonderful point. And especially all these that we have been doing about 2 years, showing these things, it all before the legal process here. The official town planning even hasn't started yet. So we are doing right now everything very different way than the town planning process is. So this is like a preliminary opening right now.
Yeah, therefore I was inviting you to come to Tapiola.
Yes, we come there.
Yeah.
Let's have a big seminar there. Thank you.
Can I interject one thing? I've been a politician. I've been a city councilor in the Boston area. And whenever a developer comes in, they talk to me first. And when I tell them, go out and speak to the community. One thing I gotta say about Peter and his team, very transparent, very open. And I'm sure when the time comes, they're gonna come out to speak and talk to you about the area and take whatever questions and comments that you have. So you can rest assured about that. If you have issues concerning your part of that, Espoo, is it?
Actually, that Otakeila area.
What you need to do is contact your local politician and find out.
You're looking one of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then you should speak together because I know what it's like to deal with other city councilors.
I sit in world also, so I was just that yeah, you can put on your dreams, but maybe you can also ask.
Yeah. We are more than happy to organize that event, but during the last 2 years we have briefed the various city units in Espoo 3 times on this. So it's again, it shouldn't, and especially if you're like a politician in Espoo, it's very surprising if you haven't heard anything about this.
Of course I have. I
Yes.
mean the inhabitants.
Yeah,
But let's do so.
but that's, we are at that stage of the process where we're starting to do that.
Of course you collect money first and then you present your, but you know West Metro
Why would they
it has
collect
been
money?
started so that there was only 2%. 2% was planned. So maybe it is better to plan better.
Yes. But yes.
Thank you. I am Timo Kolander and I'm a public affairs consultant, and I'd have a couple of questions. The first one looks north. You spoke about the south and the east mostly, but then there's this another big project in planning the Arctic Railway.
Yes.
What's your take on the synergies between this and that?
Yeah, so without
And
the tunnel, the
second-
Arctic
second-
Railway doesn't make sense. Short answer.
But would it be good for you to have a kind of cargo link to the Arctic Sea?
Yeah, but we are actually, we couldn't share like all the details and everything, but we have been very much involved in that discussion. And we, personally, I think that the Kirkenes option is like the one that makes the most sense. But again, I mean, that's, it's the same thing that we didn't go into detail on like what would make sense towards like St. Petersburg, and then also what might make sense going to the west. But if you look at the the Arctic Railway, I think that that is project that it doesn't make sense just for cargo. And I think that we also need to plan for growth there when it comes to much bigger tourism. And I think that again, passenger traffic, super important. That's also why we started with passenger traffic when it comes to the tunnel. And I think that this is something that again, you know, in Finland we're not always super good at being, you know, like confident and believing in ourselves. And everybody's now surprised at what? There are all these Chinese tourists. You know, like you go and walk downtown Helsinki in the morning, who do you see? Only Chinese tourists. Or you go to Rovaniemi, packed with Chinese tourists. And then you realize that, okay, it's like maybe, I don't remember the latest stats, but maybe it's 13% of Chinese people who have a passport. And guess what? More and more and more Chinese middle class, bigger than the US population. Where do they come? Finland. So it's going to be millions. So I think that, but yeah, so Arctic Railway, super important. We didn't kind of like plan to present too much on that, but we are also looking at like beyond. And right now we started to look at like what makes sense for Tampere and Turku. So we want to be like a bit of a like stirring up discussion and maybe not act as like troublemakers, but like questioning some of these things that, okay, does it really make sense to plan for a 1 hour rail connection to Turku and Tampere when it should be half an hour, if you look at the distance. But anyway, so.
But you're
and
mostly looking at passengers and not so much at cargo.
we're looking at both, but we want to highlight the passenger side because in many of the other discussions and feasibility studies, they're only looking at cargo. And I think that cargo, yes, it's important, but they kind of like forget that, hey, there's massive growth on the passenger side. And then if you look at the Rail Baltica, I think it's great if that happens, but I think that the problem I see with that is that the ambition level, having, you know, like plans where you don't even go 200 kilometers an hour, but maybe like 160. So then it's like, okay, why build all of this infrastructure and not building it kind of like properly from the beginning? You go to China, go to Japan, the trains go like a bit faster, even some places in Europe. So why are we not ambitious enough? Because when we build these kind of like tracks and things, it's not for like 2 years. So that's why I'm a bit critical of like the way the Rail Baltica has been done, that it's not like very ambitious.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. My second question is more technical about the tunnel itself. The bedrock changes a bit when we go towards Estonia. Does that cause problems?
No, it doesn't cause problems, but it's you are right, and it's thing that we need to understand. We have a hard rock here, and when we go to Tallinn, the hard rock goes lower and lower. So in Helsinki, around Helsinki area, we can use our normal technique use, but when we get closer to Tallinn, then we need another kind of techniques for the tunnel boring machines. So We know that there are both bedrocks, hard and soft, and it changes during this tunnel, but it's not a problem. It's something that we have to know, and we know so that we can take care of that in the design phase and also during the construction phase.
So rock.
Eric, when can we have Moscow, Berlin in less than 24 hours on a train?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Moscow is kind of like a bit in the periphery from our perspective, but I think like if you look at Helsinki to Berlin, again, of course, it depends on like how well the Rail Baltica is executed, and kind of like a bit out of our control. But I mean, the tunnel will be there, so like the first part will be super fast, and then hopefully we can get to Berlin in like less than 4 hours in the 20s.
Wow, great.
Yes, sir.
From Port of Tallinn, there's a current traffic around 10 million passengers per year, I think, on the boats. What do you think this tunnel will make? Will it add another 10, or will it rewrite existing 10?
It will, over time, it will add, so our thinking is that very quickly we will double the traffic, so to 20 million, just for the tunnel. And then there will be, it's very tough to kind of predict what will happen to the ferry traffic. Probably a lot of that will actually remain, because right now the plan is to do just like the fast rail. So if then you want to take your car or whatever over, then you take the ferries. And so it's tough to say what will happen there. Then I think one thing, which is kind of like a big kind of like variable, is that our thinking here is that this is kind of like the South Metro from like Helsinki, or like North Metro from Tallinn perspective. So metro traffic, of course, is much bigger than like if you take many times we're asked that, hey guys, like look at London and Paris. That is not like a very successful project. But then if you look at London and Paris, that's like 3 hours or a bit under 3 hours by train. So it's no way that you could view that as London-Paris metropolitan area. It's just like they're totally separate. But here we're really talking about one metropolitan area, so it's not a connection between two cities, it's actually connection between two neighborhoods. So we should look at the traffic from like eastern Helsinki to Espoo and look at the numbers there. So right now what we did in our business case, we did the pricing, okay, we'll double the traffic, we'll price it at like average 50 euros a trip. But I personally believe that we might see much bigger traffic and actually much lower ticket prices if you look at this as like South Metro. And I think that is probably a more realistic and of course much more interesting scenario. But that is something that we need to do some work. Now we did this more like traditional plan, but I think we'll do a few other scenarios as well, and then we'll see what is kind of like the smartest.
You answered my second question about 50 euros per one trip.
Right.
What people have to afford. And if it's a metro, it should be named metro, not tunnel and train. It should be called metro. Then it's one city.
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah, so we actually been starting to talk about like from a Finland perspective, that is like the South Metro. Yeah.
So I was wondering if you compare the current train traffic and the new metro or train traffic, what are the ecological effects? Like which one is more ecological when you think of the exhaust fuels and the effect on the environment?
You mean ferries versus metro?
Yes.
So I mean, again, if you look at the traditional ferries, I think that one ferry causes about as much pollution as all the cars in Finland. So, like in a year, for example. So that's kind of like if you look at traditional ferries, okay, now we have like LNG, so like the liquid gas and all of that, so they are better. But ferries are typically super bad for the environment, like super bad. So we will be much better than that. And of course, trains powered by like electricity, so then of course depends on how the electricity is produced. So of course if people are burning coal to make that, yeah, not great, but if it's for example nuclear or solar or something like that, then it's much better. So
I was thinking what I'm going to do with the exhaust gas
It's like electricity, so there's like zero emission.
No, not the train, but the cars.
No cars.
No cars.
We are not doing
No
it.
cars.
It's just rail.
Yeah.
Who needs cars, really?
And of course, if you think about the land use, for example, this artificial island will be totally sustainable. So
Yeah.
this all helps to, for example, sustainable land.
But
use.
one additional, like what is very important here. So I mean, when we had a meeting with our Chinese partners already, like last year, and we said, okay, we want to do the 70 meter in diameter. Then they said, oh, but you guys could put in cars. Then we explained to them that if you look at driver license penetration, so like the percentage of the population that has a driver's license been going down in all big metropolitan areas, including Helsinki, for the last, I don't know how long. So if you look at the future trends and then autonomous vehicles and all of that, there is absolutely no reason to put cars in the tunnel. I mean, it's the same thing that if I go to London or New York, do I bring my own car? Of course not. I mean, it makes absolutely no sense. There's transportation alternatives, and in the future, when we move towards more of this autonomous drive and all of that, so when the Chinese partners asked this, I said that of course not, and what we actually will be doing, and I talked about creating gravity, we're creating innovation platform and environment here, so we will create the future of mobility in this environment because we have all the transportation alternatives, the metro, the tunnel here, fast rail above ground and all of that. So we're creating a fantastic environment to create these kind of solutions. So they will happen here first, and then we'll take it to the rest of the world. And guess what? Then the Chinese asked that can they be part of this, and can we do the same in Shanghai? And I say, of course, we're happy to help.
Yes, my name is Antti Aino, kind of maybe a stupid intellectual question, but how about if the world changes and the cars will no longer pollute and so forth, and cars will be of different sizes, and maybe the island goes to Tallinn, maybe it will become useful for other purposes than construction in the future. To what extent is there flexibility to repurpose the tunnel in, let's say, from the 2040s?
It's 70 meters in diameter, so we can put like lots of stuff in there. But then if you're asking for about this kind of like Elon Musk type of vision of putting cars in tunnels, I think that's bullshit. So yeah.
Somebody else's problem.
Yeah, and I think that it's again, of course, there might be, all kinds of changes, but I think that from our perspective, we can put pretty much like anything into the pipes. So it's future-proof.
How about the island goes to Tallinn or extending the network in
But I think also like with the island and all of that it's just like concentration of 50,000 people, boom, 1 square kilometer, and of course you can do many different things. But I don't think that there's anything that we couldn't do there. But if you look at like all the station areas, they're designed to be walkable, and then where it doesn't make sense to walk, then you have autonomous vehicles feeding.
Yeah, and traffic will be as a service, so there is no point of moving vehicles through this road.
Yeah. No, who first?
My name is Jan Long, and I work with urban planning, specifically with the Papila district in Helsinki. All the roads lead to Rome, and the situation in Finland is such that all the trains stop in Papila. My question is, when it comes to the connectivity, connecting to the rail network in Finland, do you think the connectivity is high at the airport and in Espoo and Otaniemi?
So again, I think that what we need to do is organize a different event where we can go through the overall plan for like how the traffic, and the network. We have actually done together with Aalto University a plan for optimizing the entire like railroad network in Finland. So that is something that we're more than happy to kind of like go into like tons of details. It's Olli here actually.
So Olli could actually.
Oh, hey, Olli's here. Actually, perfect. Yeah, good.
Could you maybe come down here? We have the camera down here, so if you could
Could you come down?
Yeah.
Then there's an online audience from Europe.
Tänne on.
Okay, my name is Olli Hakanen. I'm CEO of FreeSpace Oy, and we have been studying for 10 years, and now the last 1 year and 3 months with our Ministry of Traffic and Communication about the possibility to change the Helsinki railway system so that it would be heiluriliikenne, whatever it is in English. Meaning that we make the päärata and rantarata together. And we have a station just 150 meters from the Hakaniemi, Hakamäen tie, north of Hakamäen tie. And there we have 6 platform rails, and via that station we can run 20 trains on the quick tracks and 24 trains on the slower tracks, which are kaupunkirata in Finnish. And we have been collaborating with Peter and his group that there could be one station connected with our station. And there we would be already only -7 meters below the sea level. And then we have a tram train going from the central railway station from Helsinki via this station to lentoasema. And our tram train will stop in front of the door of the new central lobby of the airport station, and the tram train would land in the central railway station in Helsinki city center on the level of the metro lobby, ticket lobby. And it will take some under 20 minutes from the airport to Helsinki city center, and from our railway station it will take only just more than 5 minutes. And so this is the way, at least one way of connecting these projects together.
But I think that it's a fantastic question, and it's also Ali's point that we will share the overall plan for optimizing the network for the metropolitan area and the whole nation. So we'll do that as well. But I think that it's a good example also that there's everything impacts everything. So it's not like a simple answer that this is how it's done. It's actually it's a great question, but it's a big question.
Gentleman in the back with the glasses, yes.
One comment and one question. Marko, my name. The car stuff might be coming from the even picture.
Yeah, and that's again, yes, not the great, yeah.
Yes. Then the question, the track week, do you follow the Finnish or the Central European?
Both.
Both.
We can do both, so we always get that question, so it doesn't add to the cost. We can do both, but still you have to change somewhere, and we might as well change then on the Estonian side. Because if you look at that, all the Baltic states, Finland, Russia, China uses the Finnish standard. So it's you have to change somewhere. But we can do both.
Well, one of my students.
Yes, you will use 12 TBMs in home railroad, right?
Huh?
You will use 12 TBMs to make all the tunnel from Tallinn to Helsinki.
Yes.
So it means in each part two TBMs towards together, right?
Yeah, so we make two tunnels and we drill in 6 directions, 12 TBMs. Yes.
Okay, it means in each part, two TBMs going towards each other to.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so when they reach each other, so one should get down and bury it, or how to get out the TBMs?
We're not quite.
We haven't decided.
Champagne
We just hope for the best that they will actually like meet roughly in the same area. But yeah, so I mean that's again we haven't decided on what to do with the TBMs. I mean one typical thing is that you just like leave it there. So of course then like go below or.
So financially, is it okay if you?
It's like 30 million. It's 30 million up in a $15 billion project. Yeah, it's no big deal. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
May I say some?
Go ahead.
Thanks for giving presentation in Metropolia today, and I've just one question. When within the next 2 weeks we will meet and give participation to Metropolia master students in the project?
Anytime.
Say it directly. Monday next week, 10
Yeah, I know
o'clock.
actually. I'm going to Beijing on Friday and we'll be back on like Wednesday. But yeah, I'm sure we can find like a time.
Any Monday this spring.
Yeah. Okay.
Within the next 2 weeks.
I can't promise that, but within the next like 4 weeks probably, yes.
Okay, this gentleman.
You're about 4 weeks.
Great project. Often whenever you have, so your central areas here, the Odegale and the island and so forth, are very high density population areas.
Yes.
And what tends to often happen is that sort of dries out the other areas beyond that. Do you have any ideas on, is that what you want to achieve, or are there ideas on how to kind of avoid that sort of desertization of the rest of the areas close by? So I'm talking Kirkkonummi, Sipoo, Espoo even maybe.
Yeah, but I think that what we're expecting here is actually much faster growth when it comes to everything, or including the population. So I don't think that it's if we and when we are successful with this, it's highly unlikely that there will be that kind of effect. I think that is more about like the opposite. So where do we put all the people?
So you don't have any thoughts yet on how, for instance, the transportation would be maybe revitalized or reorganized to connect to that?
Let's say that I think that the point earlier about like what is happening with traffic in general and like autonomous vehicles and all of that, that is happening no matter what, and I think that will have a huge impact on like tunnel or not, that will happen, and I think that it's a great opportunity to also kind of like design the cities differently, and I would leave that to kind of like the real urban planners in the room. So obviously not an expert in that, but I think that the tunnel and what we have with the metro, that is kind of like backbone, and then we need to do a much better job on like the connectivity. I mean, there's already a lot of discussion now with the West Metro about like travel times and things like that, and I think that with autonomous vehicles and all of this, that we can make smaller, more frequent kind of like routes happen, and I think that is actually what will happen. So in the end, we will end up with better connectivity than we have today.
And better, the urbanization is going on all the time here and probably will continue like 20 years. So this is probably the most sustainable way to take care of this urbanization that is happening. Many hundred thousands of people are going to move to Helsinki area no matter what.
Yeah.
Another one of my graduate students right here.
Yeah, my name is Pedro Arreaza. I was maybe intrigued about this 100-kilometer tunnel in 20 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that seems rather slow because in Asia.
Yeah, we're being conservative here.
Yeah. So
yes.
Why not? I know there is technological risk, but I mean, let's at least be on today's technology, right? Maybe a little bit.
So what do you mean by today's technology?
I mean faster trains, maybe 600, 800, maybe kilometers.
Yeah. I mean that's something that we can look at, but then and we are looking at all of that. So again, we could go with, for example, maglev, and then we could get to that kind of like thing, and that's like again widely used in Japan and some other parts. But I think that right now we wanted to eliminate like all technology risk, and then one thing that we can already get to kind of like good enough performance by just using standard fast rail that is like available everywhere. But also, I mean, we can put in things like Hyperloop and these kind of things later. But I think that there is no need to get like, or also we don't even need to decide on the actual technology yet, because it will take like a year or two to like drill the tunnel. So we can then, part of the process, if it makes sense and if it's feasible, we could put in, for example, maglev, or then if like the Hyperloop guy surprises us and actually deliver faster than kind of like expected, we could put something like that in. But I think that that's also the idea, that we build something that is future-proof, so we can put in better technology later.
You need to look at this as kind of we've set a minimum that we would like to reach, and we know that we can reach that with many different technologies.
So we also like building the tunnel in 5 years. We think that we can do that faster. The same thing also 20 minutes. We know that we can do it faster, but it's again if we get to that, it's like pretty good.
Just as an example, the maglev guys said it takes 8 minutes through the tunnel.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of kind of.
So there's margin.
But you need some time for stopping at the train stations as well.
But the maglev actually helps with that, so that's another thing. But that's also the 4 stations. The reasons for that obviously is that when you use fast rail, the more stations, the slower it becomes. So we want to minimize the number of stations.
And I look forward to seeing what kind of trains end up in those towns.
Mm-hmm.
We're excited about that.
Yeah.
We're going to get to everybody, but my graduate students, what questions are asked are going to be in their final examination. So
part of your grade.
It's going to be part of their grade. So I'm just going to take a couple, then I'll get back to the rest of you. Is that okay? Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Omar Mabu. Yeah, if it's possible, could you tell us how many years would it take to cover the cost from feasibility study, cost of the project? How many years?
Yeah, the tunnel will pay for itself in 37 years.
37 years.
Yeah. But that's only with the passenger traffic, so then when we add like the cargo and all that, it will be even better. But we just use that, so again, being very, very conservative in everything.
Go ahead.
With the exclusion of road and car travel from these tunnel projects, the 50,000 people who were living on the island in between Helsinki and Tallinn will have only one mode of transport between both directions. So how often will the train work? Because people will need to go to hospitals, universities, and emergency situations that might not be feasible and viable to construct on an island of 50,000 people, but services that will be available to them in mainland Europe, like Helsinki and Tallinn. So how often will the trains be running in both directions so that these guys have the flexibility of travel times? 2, my second question is, the tunnel between Dover and Calais, France, the finances, it's common knowledge that the finances is a disaster. Now,
but I already addressed that. That's like a totally different business case when you have a 3-hour versus 20 minutes. So it's not even like relevant to look at it.
So in the first 37 years, when I expected to break even, who owns and operates these tunnels? And post 37 years, who owns and operates it? And then the third question is, if we're connecting 2 cities, why not build bridges? It's cheaper, it's faster.
Have you been here in the winter?
Winter.
Yes. Have you heard about it? Yeah. Yeah. But But I think that it's there are like, of course you could probably do a bridge, but I think that there's there are many reasons why it might be a bit safer and more future-proof to do a tunnel. So there are like other benefits, and actually, if you look at the overall cost, it's not like a massive difference. I mean, the construction of the tunnel is actually not that expensive. Again, we have built like lots of margin with the 15 billion, so that's one thing. But again, current thinking that it will be a tunnel, but you know, we'll see. We don't really see a point in making a bridge. There's also like a few like ferries and boats going in that part of the bay, so it might not make sense. Then the frequency, okay, we haven't defined the exact frequency of the trains, but I think that the same thing there, that if you are living outside in the countryside, what is your connectivity to, say, Helsinki or the next...
Think about the metro.
Yeah.
It will be very frequent.
Yeah.
Don't forget that 50,000 people, that's not even a mid-sized city.
Yeah.
It's quite a big city in Finland.
Mm.
Of a city.
So the short answer is that frequent enough.
Yes. And we have to do the tunnel from the airport still, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, woman in blue. You. Yes.
So why so weird shape of the island? Why not round?
Maximum waterfront.
Yeah. Waterfront is like valuable, so that maximizes.
Always safe harbor.
But I think that also that this is not, you know, like this is the first design. It's not the final design. But of course, these things have a tendency to kind of like then become the final design. But that is also why we're inviting people to participate in the design of the island, the station neighborhoods, and all of that. So these are like.
It is one day vision.
Yeah.
I will make another weekend. So.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I thought you were finished.
Because I just was traveling to Singapore, and that really reminds me, right? Because if you have to live a lot of people in one small piece of land, it will be anyway skyscrapers and everything.
Yes.
It's the only way, right? So do you plan to make it very sustainable, or just to live there and travel?
It's going to be actually totally self-sufficient when it comes to energy and everything.
But then you need schools and hospitals and a lot of things. So
Yeah. I mean, it will be self-sufficient in everything.
Eating only fish.
Yeah. And like a 50,000 people city, so of course there's schools and hospitals and so on.
But one thing that is very important here, and again, bit of our like thinking there, is that this is a fantastic test bed how to build future cities.
Absolutely.
Because it's an island, so it has to be, everything has to be there. It's contained, you know, like all of that. So if we can make it totally self-sufficient in everything, it's pretty like impressive. And we actually know how to do that on the energy side already, but again.
Okay. The one thing we actually didn't mention about the island, that it is needed for safety harbor.
Yeah, that's another
Because
reason.
it's such
Yeah.
a long tunnel line. So
there is also the smaller island closer to Tallinn, which is also because of that reason, and construction speed.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so that's like one scenario, but also again, that if you look at more like a metro-like scenario, then we look at more passengers, smaller price. But the 50 euros, it's a little bit like, you know, with the current ferries or airlines, that 50 is kind of like the average, but then some tickets might be 10 or some tickets might be 100, depending on like when you travel and all of that.
I mean, 50 euros is fine if it's like a touristical trip to Tallinn, but if you think that it's like a community.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. That. Yeah, but this is exactly that our model was that, okay, then there's only 20 million trips. But then if we do this metro scenario, then it's cheaper, but then we talk about 100 million trips, as an example. So we haven't done all the scenarios yet, so we started with like an easy one, and we can justify like the cost and everything based on that. But I think a more realistic one might be like then more like a metro-like and commute kind of scenario. Yeah, in the back. Yeah.
time there was another dream, which is Turku, Stockholm, tunnel. Another project was spoken of at that time, just simultaneously.
Yeah, not like 5 years ago. These are pretty recent, so that was like Hyperloop-like stuff, and that was like last year. But yeah, I mean, no, I mean like that's again, there are like dreams and then there's like reality. So we're making this real. But I think that people should always, they are free to dream about like connection to Stockholm, that's fine.
So maybe it will be your next project.
But they're already, I mean, I'm more than happy to have the Hyperloop guys make that real. It's okay.
My second question, since a lot of construction works are going to be involved, when the like construction like contracting competition will be announced, when do you estimate that is announced for a lot of
Yeah, I mean, the plan is that we want to start construction already this year, and then it's anybody's guess when we'll open up various pieces for competition. But right now, I mean, we didn't go into this, but the idea here, and why I asked about, okay, have you heard about like the Tampere tunnel and all that? That's an example of building this through this kind of like consortium setup or this like alliance setup. So again, we're also building this differently. So then that's why we're very confident about being able to deliver this in like 5 years and not like 10 or 15 or maybe 20 years.
Yeah, an important thing is these station areas. So for example, Keilaranta, it is all winning situation if we make gravity right now there. You can build a building right now there or rent a space. So this all accelerate everything right now already.
So construction companies should like expect that this year will be announced.
Yeah, and you should buy your apartment in Tallinn now before the prices go up. Yeah. Yeah, back there.
If we look at all the goods and services in an economy, it seems that the built environment and architecture actually have a huge impact on how people live, how
Yes.
people work, how people socialize. If we were to have a gathering like this, there would have to be, in the US, there would have to be like 100 parking lots outside. Whereas here, we can gather people from all different areas to have this kind of congregation in mind.
Yes.
Right? And if we, the other thing about built environment is that it's relatively hard to change. Once you put it in there, it has a cascading down effect. You have the buildings, the rooms in the building, the halls, then you have to fix like the projector there, whereas the building was designed 100 years ago.
Right.
So, whereas you can maybe make an ad and install it very easily. If we look at a picture of the town, or you think about Venice, it's very beautiful. It's also very connected, very organic. It's like the whole town as a thing. And when you think about how many design hours, the mental effort, like all this would probably thousands and thousands over hundreds of years. Whereas the island on the left is probably something more recent, as you said. Right?
Yeah.
How do we match that level of sophistication to create an organic town, new city?
Very good.
Yeah, that's very good. And
Also, the other follow-up counter question is that how, as a society or as a democracy, we can overcome this NIMBYism. I'm not sure if
yeah, totally. We already got the question from over there. But yeah, anyway.
You don't realize that there is already empty office space. Microsoft has gone already. There are about 40 to 50% empty office space at the moment. And you're bullshitting regarding those cheap housing, because it's about 10,000 to 15,000 square meter. Who's going to pay?
But hey, the whole thing here. No, but that's not even a question. That's like a comment. And I mean, like again, we're not like complete idiots here. So of course we know that there's plenty of office space available.
Yeah, but you have a marketing story, but you have to put it in the realism.
We're making it real.
Yeah. And I mean,
so the thing is that the thing here is that let's not be, so Finnish here that okay, nobody will come because the climate sucks and it's raining every day, and why would you come? Why?
To see as like urban planning, this is not urban planning at all. As
Hey. Of course, it's like urban planning. And yeah, but the whole thing here is that of course we can start and say that okay, that nobody will come. There's plenty of empty office spaces and. We are. Yes. Sure.
Peter, I can add something.
Yeah.
That is the reason that I showed you this collaboration tool. That all the parties together we can go decide what is the real highest building and so on. So that is the reason that I showed you this SketchUp style planning. That this is not that we want this picture right now and take it or leave it. We are inviting everybody to do this collaboration.
Yes.
And I have seen the Peter doing this kind of pitching for Asian billionaires. Who in Espoo is coming to Asia and trying to get a $1 billion company come to the Espoo as a good taxpayer? Peter is doing that. So this, we are trying to fulfill these empty spaces.
But one thing here that we have every week, we are now in competition with London, with Berlin, about where will these Chinese and other Asian companies put their European headquarters. And we are going to win a lot of those. So again, that's why I get a bit annoyed with like, oh, there's already this like empty office space and nobody will come and all of that. I mean, we need to...
I didn't say that.
Yes, you did. You said exactly that.
No, I didn't. You said that nobody is coming. I don't say that, but I asked, do you know what is the current situation? Because
Hey.
when you
So
plan something,
the thing is, but the thing is that you should never underestimate people. So of course I understand the current situation.
Good, but I would like you to say it. Because
I understand the current situation.
We stop living in the past, we're looking towards the future now.
And I mean, like again, there are like a lot of people who have problems like the basic fins and all of that, and that's like fine. I'm not one of those guys.
Maybe 50 years.
There is other new people.
Okay.
Let's take the next question from there.
I'm Aristotle from Finland Group and also resident from Aviapolis area. And that's why I'm very, very interested in what kind of plans you have for Aviapolis area.
Yeah, so we don't have any plans for Aviapolis area except that that's obviously where the station will be. And we haven't had too much of a dialogue with the city of Vantaa yet, but that is definitely one of the next steps, and we want to be very, very open and engage in dialogue about that. We have had actually requests for starting that, but we just haven't had the bandwidth and the time to do that, but that is definitely one of the things that we need to do next. We have had discussions with Finnavia, with Finnair, so again, some of the important kind of like users of that area, but not with Aviapolis. So that is something that we need to do, and it's super important.
Jose Valanta already knows this and loves this, and you should say this to Mr. Penttila also, that it will be cool.
I think, well, it's still one of the sort of most aggressively growing areas, business hubs in the area, so
Yes.
I would think that we most warmly welcome you.
Yeah, and it's, of course, this wouldn't make sense without the airport connectivity. I think this is something that is like super, super important. And that is actually, we were very happy that now in this kind of like the official like feasibility study, originally they didn't have the airport included at all. But I think that this whole project doesn't make sense without the airport, or I should say airports. So one of the effects here is that the Tallinn airport effectively becomes like this city terminal. So then long haul in Helsinki, short in Tallinn. So you basically 20 minutes, you land in Helsinki, you are at the airport in Tallinn, London, for example.
Some of the biggest concerns we've had from investors is the Helsinki airport capacity big enough to handle the traffic and the growth.
So kind of like the extent, you see that the extension is not enough.
Well,
No, it's not enough. That's very clear.
Good start.
It's very clear.
To demonstrate that somebody believes in the growth.
Yeah.
And one small adding about this earlier thing. The point is that these all 4 station areas will be very different kind of places. So the wonderful thing is that you can reach this and use this kind of space, and probably some place will be like a winter garden that you can live in. Something is like Aviapolis, you can find already wonderful Kivistö housing place there. So the multitude of station areas is one wonderful point here.
Just one comment coming from Tallinn, don't forget that Tallinn is a city that is between the lake and the sea, like a number of 8. And if you put even more people there, it will be squeezed even more there. Tallinn city street infrastructure is not ready to host 2 times more cars, or 2 times more taxis or self-driving cars. It takes me more time from the harbor to get here than by this tunnel to the Helsinki from Tallinn.
Right, yeah.
Taxi is 30 minutes and tunnel will be taken.
But I think this is also very important that then, like in Tallinn locally, need to also plan for this growth. I think this is also something that is very important, and that's why like we threw out there, okay, we want to have 50,000 people in like all the station, like neighborhoods, and I think that this is again.
But it took in Tallinn 1 bridge 10 years.
Yes, sure. But I think that we know that there are different challenges in the different cities. So we also have that.
Small comment about it. And also sometimes I already saw that Finns are already having a discussion. I think we as the need to have it. I just wanted to say that I happened to make with my colleague interview with one of the top architects in Estonia, and he didn't, push anyway. But he said that usually in most of the world cases, the hub is in the center, but the first station should be in the really center. For me, I understand that Ülemiste is developing and the airport is there, but it makes, he said, bring it under the ground, like in Helsinki, the first 10.
But it will be underground anyway, so it doesn't really like matter.
Destroy, and from there people can move quickly forward if they need. So it doesn't mean that they come up and then start thinking where I go now.
Yeah.
I think you raised a very good question about that you kind of size this whole downtown area of Tallinn and center of Helsinki. You need to be explain about that, the philosophy or the rationale for that. Because it's kind of obvious that we should, as you go from downtown Helsinki to downtown Tallinn or vice versa.
Yeah, but I think that it's more about it's not about the geographic location, but it's about the time. And I think that that's also what Olli was talking about, like the overview of the different stations. Because I think that if you look at the whole metropolitan area here on the Helsinki side, we all know that there's a lot of optimization that could be done for like the overall network. And I think that it's also very important that there's all these, plans. Some of them have been executed, some not, like this, Pisara, and like a lot of these. And I think that a lot of these things don't even make any sense if you then look at like the whole thing. And I think that we have a lot of reasons to kind of like look in the mirror in Finland, that we have, like the metropolitan area, but then we also know that we immediately get into discussion about, but this is Helsinki and this is Espoo and this is Vantaa, and then now we add Tallinn to the discussion, and I think that there's a lot of kind of like sub-optimization that is happening. So what we have tried to do is like stay away a bit from that and look at the big picture. But of course there are different perspectives always, and some people think that it should be there or here, or like we heard Pasila, or why isn't like the railway station, and why isn't. And I think that again, that's part of the dialogue that we need to have, that we kind of like need to get our act together and then come up with the best possible solution. But there will be different opinions, and I guess in the end it's called politics. But yeah, maybe there in the middle. Yeah.
You're open to innovations from all over the world.
Yes.
Where can companies follow the process of the competition opening up?
Yeah. So one thing. Right now we don't even have like our website live, or I don't know if it's maybe going live soon. But we've been running pretty fast with this and getting all of this in place. But one thing that I think is very important, and this is also part of what we wanted to do today and what we're doing with these events, that sharing the progress and where we're at. but like very early, like first couple of weeks after I said, okay, we're going to make the tunnel happen, I got an email from a company in Pori in Finland, and they said that, oh, they have this fantastic bolt technology, that we should talk about that. And I said, oh, it's like a bit premature to talk about bolts. But then, okay, I happened to be at this Suomi Arena like the summer, and then I met with the people, and then they explained that, oh, this is used now in Norway, and it's used in the Posiva, this like end depository for the nuclear fuel, like also on the west coast of Finland. And actually, using this bolt technology, you can speed up the construction process significantly, and like without going into too much detail, you can actually continue drilling without having to wait for like eventual leakage to be like plugged. But anyway, so that's an example of being contacted then by people who can offer solutions to problems, making it faster. We're now in talks with different drilling technology providers. So, for example, this week we're talking to a team from Slovakia. They're making plasma drilling. So you melt the rock. So basically you can do that without like friction, and that is one potential method of making the tunnel happen even faster. There are some other drilling technologies that we're looking at. So what we are already seeing is that there are a lot of people from all over the world who want to offer like their approach, their innovation, and we need to get kind of like our act together to make it easier to work with the project, work with the consortium to contribute this. And I think we already touched on the like mobility, and autonomous vehicles and things like that. I think that we have an opportunity here to use the tunnel project as inspiration, as kind of like as a catalyst for making a lot of that stuff happen here, and then we're happy to export it to the rest of the world. So I think that the tunnel is a little bit like the, let's put a man on the moon, and then like a lot of technology came out of that. So hopefully we can also use the tunnel as a catalyst for making stuff happen in like totally unexpected areas. So we'll see. But short answer is that right now we don't have a perfect solution for that, but you can contact like one of us, and then we'll figure it out, and then in the future we'll have like the online presence done properly and all of that.
Yes. Thank you. This gentleman right here, and then we'll go to the back. Go ahead.
Okay, my name is Metropolia. I'm a co-founder of Hyperloop Helsinki and Helsinki Hyperloop Group.
Okay.
And my question is about information infrastructure. So, how have you addressed the thing that in future we should look at the whole transportation modes as like we should have the same platform for each transportation unit?
Yeah.
So it's similar to Internet of Things. So they need to be able to communicate with each other.
Sure.
And how we could actually use already some of the technologies that are existing since the beginning. Like if we speak about open source platform, we should have some kind of really open source platform for everyone to invest and to participate in the development process. So have you considered, in example, initial coin offering or some kind of other methods to fund perhaps research and development also around different transportation modes?
Let's say yes, but not really very concretely yet. But I think that there are already players providing that kind of like service. So you have like the Mass Global guys, you have like Tulp and these guys. So there's a lot of innovation happening in that space here in Finland already. So I think that's fine. Okay, it might not all be like open source and all of that, but we have the regulatory framework in place now that all of those systems have to provide open APIs, and you have to provide access to your like system so that we can integrate, like rail and autonomous vehicles and the buses and the trams and like all of that. So I think that we have actually a very, very good situation already. And then I don't think that like how will this be funded? I think that it will be funded through the current like existing mechanisms. So we have VCs and banks and different things. Of course, then ICOs and all of that will come to play, and we have players both sides of the bay that are active in that. Thunderbeam comes to mind, and then we have the Zipper guys here and stuff like that. So I think that luckily we don't need to address all of that. So that's part of the ecosystem, that there are many players already making bits and pieces of this happening. So we're more than happy to work with the existing players here.
And I have another question also about how the system will be adapted in future if suddenly something happens with technology. Like an example, how is it going to convert these tracks to be used as a magnetic levitation, and perhaps if we can find active track reduction, because what I think, like an example with the high flow, the idea is
thank you.
It's not visible, because it's same as you will put a huge tube into the sea and you will pump the water all the time. It's what the air was.
Right.
So if you could localize this vacuum around the pod, and if I would say there is an option, already now we could reduce 50% of the air reduction. And I believe that with this technology, which is related to plasma solutions, we could actually create artificial bubble around the pod. So we could.
Sure.
I'm just interested.
But the thing is that we can do all of that probably. But one thing here is that I think that this is also. We don't have all of that in place that, like, okay, you just plug in here and then like we'll make it happen. I think that what we wanted to do is just like establish like a baseline that we can make the tunnel happen, we can put in existing technology, it will deliver 20 minutes, it will cost this much. And then as we do this, we also open up so that we can bring in new technology, be it, like Hyperloop or related, and like reducing the friction and like what have you. And there's a lot of things that can happen, and I think that this can be a catalyst. And again, being the longest railroad tunnel or tunnel like in the world, that's already like drawing a lot of attention. So I think that we can expect to see a lot of this, being developed here and tested here, and then we can take it to the rest of the world. So we want to make that happen, but again, we're not there yet. But I clearly see that as kind of like direction and where we want to go. And more than happy to contribute and provide ideas for how to do that.
Okay, gentleman in the orange in the back.
Thank you. My name is Pavel, logistics management student, and my question concerns marine life. As known, Estonia and Finland are sort of leaders in the fishing industry, exports of fish to Russia and other Euro countries, brings also money to the economy. So the question is, how the operation of building the tunnel and constant flow of trains back and forth will affect on streams of fish, because there are many examples in history of even simple bridge affected on the whole streams of fish, and it's dramatically affected on the industry, fishing industry. And do you have any comments about it? Maybe you make any research? The bridge that's going to be on the path of the tunnel.
Yeah. So we personally and like team haven't done that, but there's been a lot of studies done and commissioned by the Ministry of Environment here in Finland. We have been talking to them. Again, and we're actually continuing that dialogue again this week. I guess the best answer that I can provide is that we will take all of that into account. But then kind of like more from kind of like layman's perspective, that we are there 100 meters below. So then the impact on like the fish, and that also if you look at the like the bay there's a lot of areas where there's not like even oxygen or any like life, so it's like dead. So our impact on that will be limited. But again, when you look at I think where the biggest impact will be is like the island and all of that. So that is the discussion that we're having now, that where exactly does it make sense to place that so that we minimize the impact, because it is a square kilometer, which is, okay, it's the size of like Jätkäsaari here in Helsinki, so it's significant, but then also in the big picture, okay, it's not a huge bay, but it's actually, when you put it in perspective, it's pretty big. So short answer is that we expect limited impact, but we are taking all of that into account, and that's why we started the discussion with the ministry and people there very early. And the feedback that we got from them is that they were super happy that we didn't come to them with, okay, this is what we'll do, this is the plan, take it or leave it, but we're actually working with them to make a best possible, solution so that we have the minimum impact. And I think that's a bit different from many of the other construction projects where, okay, here's the plan, can we have the permission? So we're doing it a bit differently.
Gentlemen in the green.
My question, and I actually missed almost the entire presentation because it's quite delayed, but it's about the effect on the social fabric, if you like, of Estonia, because you say, property prices will go up in nice parts of town. Nice parts of town are actually quite small parts of town and are already very expensive, and most Estonians cannot afford, I'm not Estonian myself, but it's already kind of crazy. And if you're suggesting, can you not see that, where's the benefit is what I mean, because the city budget of Tallinn is about the same size as the education budget of Helsinki. So if you talk about trying to rearrange transport in Tallinn to try and coordinate with you, there's the money for that. And it isn't rearranged, as the other gentleman said, it takes a long time to travel around Tallinn. Tallinn is a strange shaped city. You go around all the vagueness of it. So it just seems this could have a very negative effect on that. Town is already running out of people it needs because they come to Helsinki anyway to work in the IT industry.
But it's actually also the other way around, so it's not as simple as that. And I think that Helsinki, Tallinn, part of the world, no borders, open, people can move around. There's not much we can do about that. I think that also the same thing you could say here, that okay, now we have this metro connectivity to the western part of the metropolitan area here on the northern side, so basically from Helsinki to Espoo. What is the impact? Will that not destroy the way of life in Espoo, where they're used to driving their cars and all of that? And actually, I mean, some people here are laughing, but that's very much discussion that there is a lot of debate, like before the metro was decided for that, do we need this, and will this destroy the way of life as we know it in Espoo? And I think that again, yes, very valid concerns and all of that, but I think that it's kind of like a positive problem, and I think that it's also we can't live in it's not like a static environment. So it's again like progress, and sometimes it has some negative side effects as well, but I think overall it's very positive, and I think that it's I would say that it's much better to build tunnels than then to do what our American friends are thinking about, building walls to kind of isolate people. So yeah. But also maybe we're surprised and everybody wants to live in Helsinki and then there will be less people in Tallinn, or the other way around. So I mean, again, who knows? But I think that I would kind of of course we need to take into account a lot of these things, but we need to plan. We need to plan for growth. I think that is again one of the things that we need to do, and I think what we're doing here is actually trying to address some of those problems, because Tallinn is actually also growing now finally, and the same is true here. I mean, everybody here in Finland is very concerned that Helsinki is growing too fast, but then there was a report yesterday that actually we're growing way slower than Stockholm or Oslo or some of these local peers. So I think that we can do much better. And again, I think these are the kind of concerns that we should address, and of course we should try to build fantastic living and working environments for all of us. So it's
maybe just adding one short comment here.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think you'll probably see a balancing effect as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Estonia is growing rapidly. I mean, the economy and the standard of living, if you compare what has happened there compared to how it's been here for the last 30 years, growth curve is, I mean, eventually you guys or Estonia will catch up and will be, I think this will have enabling that, making it even faster, that we'll be on the same level. Hopefully we'll get your tax system here. Waiting for that.
Gentleman in the block.
I really appreciate the interactive demo and sort of sketch. The question is, when you said that this will be like a collaborative design process with kids in kindergarten, that sounds a little bit horrifying. I imagine there must be a lot of...
But the thing is, again, so we got invited to visit Tapiola, but then visit No, but the thing is, I also invite you to come and visit, like this Keilaniemi area, and then I bet you that a kindergarten kid could design a better environment.
There must be a lot of architecture students or studying urban planning, built environment. Have you considered using maybe hackathons?
Yes, we already did one. So we did that together with Aalto, and we plan to do more. So most definitely we will do that. Absolutely.
And one of the first things we actually did was 2016.
Yeah. Yes.
For the first visualization, we used architecture students, and we had like 20 of them participating and bringing their ideas.
And
but
of course,
like a start.
And of course, we are going to use real architect offices, a lot of them. So don't worry.
Apparently, Tero is some kind of real architect.
Yeah, I'm a fake one. Fake news, Tero.
Yeah.
What can we do to sort of bring out more?
But hey, this again, like I think it's also the discussion about like the platform and like the how you can participate. I think that this is exactly what we need to create, and we're not there yet. But that's also like again working with Trimble, working with other technology partners. How can we enable this like massive collaborative like environment, not only limited to people here, but like all over the planet. So I think this is also one of the things that we actually want to make happen. So you're welcome to like contribute and provide like thoughts on like how we could do that. So
one comment, but what I'm listening, and one thing what I'm liking more and more is that if you are in the startup community, then you understand the people and values, but very often people outside don't understand how you create the idea, you take it to the another level. Right now we are trying to infect, in a good sense, all the people to start thinking as a startup to think about innovation, some big idea. So more power to us.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah,
but you have had a question for a long time.
Yes.
So ask.
Yes, I'm just thinking from like a layman's perspective that when we think of how Helsinki city is growing now, I just recently heard that at least in Töölö and Punamori area, in the last 3 years, the number of child families has grown 47%. So we are really short of schools and daycare. So there's so like urgent issues societally to solve. So I'm thinking that is this so urgent yet, because we're already tackling with too many people. And another thing related to what Mr.
But just to address that, so this is actually enabling us to cope with the growth. So the idea here is that we need to make sure, that was my point earlier, that we don't want to end up as Stockholm or Silicon Valley, where you live with like 11 other people in the same room.
Yeah,
that's like, but I think that it's very important that I think that if you look at again, we also now this week has been a lot of discussion about like the growth. So here in Finland we think, oh, Helsinki is growing like super fast, but then when you look at like again, like look at Stockholm or you look at Oslo, it's like nothing. And I think that we can expect even more growth. All the trends and like what is happening, that is just only going to become stronger, and we don't even realize. And then you look at global warming and all of that. That big parts of the planet, unfortunately, will not be like pleasant to live in. So there will be migration at like unprecedented scale. But then the way I see this is that we have to do this, and the tunnel is kind of like a side thing there, but it's also to get the discussion going, and I think this is something that we need to dare dream and think bigger, and that is something that I think that we just need to we don't even realize what is about to hit us. So I think that is something. But yeah, now to the fish.
So the fish, not just the white fish, but thinking how the Finnish Gulf is one of the most fragile marine ecosystems. So I'm wondering, and also opposed to the fact that Finland is one of the most sparsely populated areas in Europe. So if you're planning to build all the way to, for example, say Tampere or Turku, there's so much unused land space. So what is the, like, how can I say, what are the pros of building on sea instead of building on all this land if you can collect, say, Tampere to Helsinki in 30 minutes? So between there you could have...
Yeah. But yeah, and it's not either or, it's both. And I think that the thing is that we have to build the island anyway, because of, again, that it's, you know, with a 100-kilometer tunnel, there's regulation, you have to have escape routes and stuff like that. And then also what is important, that it becomes part of the traffic and the business case. So again, I think that it's kind of like all connected, but I don't think that it's either or. I mean, that's again with all the 4 stations, 50,000 people. But the same thing, that if you look at like the growth, of course, a lot of that will be like channeled also outward from here. And if you have like 30-minute connection to Tampere and Turku, then that means that they will also continue growing. And in fact, if you look at Tampere, they have been doing a very good job. They've been growing even faster, attracting even more people. So it's not just about the scale, but it's about making things happen and providing the services, the schools, the daycare, and all of that. So it's again, you need to look at the whole thing holistically.
Yeah, and this holistic approach is a good, because we want to create like a kissable townscape. We want to help communities create value together and get a feeling like a belonging. And of course, the spirit of all action should be something like slush event. So don't think about so much this architectural part. This is our main goal here, what kind of actions are in these new areas.
So you want to have people kissing in the streets. That's kind of
It's
a very Finnish thing, as we know.
Everywhere you can see it.
This young lady right here in black. Most of it.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a more detailed question about the traffic as a service. So have you already thought about what kind of services there would be, for example, between the tunnel, because the challenge is it's going under, so for example the Wi-Fi and connections and these kind of things.
So there will be, of course, perfect Wi-Fi the whole way through, and 5G connectivity and everything. But I think that no, we haven't thought about like every detail. But of course, it has to be all there. That's very clear. But one reason why we now started these monthly, you know, like meetups and gatherings, is not so much to talk about the tunnel, but I mean already like looking at harmonization of many things. Like of course you should be able to use the same kind of like ticket to go from, you know, let's say part of Tallinn to Eastern Helsinki or to the airport or whatever, so that it should be on that level. And there is actually kind of like no reason why we couldn't start making that true already. Okay, there's a short, like much slower like ferry in between, but still like the experience that I can buy the ticket to get from one place to another. You know, like already talked about the 50 euros, you know, for the kind of like ticket. But if you look at now to go from Tallinn to the Helsinki airport, you might end up with like the ferry, and then maybe you're lazy, you take the taxi, you pay more for the taxi from the ferry to the airport than you pay for the you know, ferry or the tunnel. So a lot of these kind of things will come up. And I think one example that we are thinking about, for example, now this thing that, okay, maybe the Tallinn airport becomes like this kind of like city terminal, short haul, long haul, and all that. So then, of course, the security and all of that stuff should happen during the train ride. So you get on the train at the airport in Helsinki, security happens, or maybe you are in like secure environment, then you take the elevator up and you're at the gate in Tallinn, and then you get on the flight and you're in London. So these kind of things that we should think about the experience from that perspective. So we'll need a lot of like service design people and all of that. So it should be done kind of like properly. But no, we haven't, of course, been able to think about everything, but we will, not personally, but there will be people as part of this project that will take care of that. So that has to be the case.
Yes, this young lady in black, please.
I have a question about tunnels outside. You decided to dig out 2 tunnels, basically way and back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why 2?
So it's again like safety, security reasons.
And why have you decided to choose such boring machines? Because 70 meters in the diameter is quite a long.
Yeah, but that's again like, so it's future proof. So again, then we have space to put in new technology. So let's say Hyperloop becomes relevant, we can put it in. So there is actually like only 2 tunnels now. So we are not doing like a separate, or the plan is not for like a third separate like service tunnel. So only like 2 70-meter, and then like connectivity here and there, so that we meet like regulatory requirements.
Okay, and one more question is about those 2 islands. Like, are there going to be any working places on those?
Yes. So it's one way of looking at that, it's like a city. 50,000 people, but then the vision there also is that it's kind of like an entertainment island. So then there will be, more entertainment type of activities there, and again, ideally, we would also like to use it as kind of like a regulatory sandbox for Finland and Estonia. So maybe we can, because it's an island, then maybe it's easier for the politicians to use that as a test, because it's only an island, so we can test new approaches, new regulation just on the island. And ideally, it should be like a free trade zone and all of that, but okay, that's like a bit longer term.
Peter, and for example, in Otakele area, we are going to create like a boardwalk of startups.
Yeah, that's very important.
Yeah, so we don't want to add, for example, so much more typical office space in that place. But of course we want to make a very lively townscape in the first floor, and of course there's a bad weather sometimes, so we are going to build like a 2.5 kilometer long like inside pedestrian corridor here, where all the actions will be and the people can collaborate.
Hey, may I add one thing, which is I think is really
mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing, exactly.
Good.
And I'm an architect as my basic schooling, and what I see is happening is that the mobility as a service, it will change the city completely, because it takes away all the disadvantages of the traffic. So what we will need to understand is that all the street level spaces must be hybrid spaces. They can be used either living, housing, apartments, or workplaces or shops or anything, because otherwise we will end up to have huge amount of spaces for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Half of the people are selling something for the other half. So that is the main change driving thing, and it's marvelous, because we can go back to the time when the cities were compulsory designed for walking.
Mm-hmm.
And that is really wonderful, and we can do that also in the very center of Helsinki, where the Helsinki stop will be. It's like there is now what is kaatopaikka in? Dump. It's dump. It will be like Ruma Ankanpoikanen to So this is wonderful what is happening in the mobility sector, and we are designing the architecture of mobility in the huge scale which they are doing, a bit smaller scale what we are doing, and then I think the service ecosystem will take care of the rest, and it will be wonderful. One thing which is common in New York and Havana is the bicycle rickshaws. Mm-hmm. Because it's the distances, the end distances, or only let's say 800 meters. All the sportsmen can have a side hobby, and so it will be wonderful, I believe.
It will be like this.
Yeah. So it works winter time also. So.
Go ahead. Well, development operating perspective, have you considered operating established already island before the finishing of the tunnel? So is it possible maybe you have done the drilling 1 year and you start already constructing?
Yes.
Half time, 3 years to
Yes.
half year, there's already established housing partially?
Yes, the plan is actually to start construction at the island.
Parallel? Oh, okay, great. Because of all that huge promoting impact, like
Yes.
people will see something happening before the intertunnel project is
Yes.
finished.
But also, I mean, also there is one of the biggest reasons actually for doing the island is that we need to put all the rock that we end up with for making a 100-kilometer tunnel. Always when you do these kind of projects, where do you put the waste? So in this case, it's not waste, it's actually an island. So that's also like a reason why it's not just that, okay, yeah, of course we build, you know, between Helsinki and Tampere and Turku and all that, but we actually end up with a lot of material that we don't know where to put otherwise. So that can be like huge cost. So it makes sense for main reasons to the island, but yeah, we start there and then we can start constructing like the buildings and all that in parallel while we're still drilling.
I have not been to Ireland so far, but I just
When you finish.
traveled to Tallinn and it's very, very stormy. So is it nice to live on island?
Inside it's nice. It's like Finland. Climate is not always nice. Inside it's always like fantastic, yeah.
Gentlemen, maybe we can show the model of the island. There's some nice glass roofs. So Finland has the best weather in the world, as Peter says.
Yeah. Indoor.
Especially sun.
And clean air.
Yeah.
So next.
Yeah, go ahead.
I
Agree.
want to check a couple of your assumptions. You seem to be betting very heavily on air travel as an engine of economic growth. You talk about integrated municipality, both cities, but you're going airport to airport and town center to town center. You talk about the heart of Eurasia. This is a great national branding. It's predicated upon, am I correct, upon a lot of air travel from China. It's predicated upon
Or let's say not just China, I mean Asia, but China and India, of course, being the main drivers.
And so air travel as the concept behind this heart of Eurasia. And so you're also assuming, for example, that there's no problems with Russian overflights, which are negotiated bilaterally. This is, you know, if there's any interruptions with Ethiopian relations, then this would kind of throw off the economics.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like with the tunnel, as we explained, it's kind of like intra-city, like metro connection. So I would say that just like the Rail Baltica is a nice add-on, the same thing is true for the air traffic and all of that. That I mean, the bulk of the traffic will be within the metropolitan area.
But you're positing the growth, the new residential construction around the airports. Is this
Only 2 other stations are around the airports.
Well, and I get the idea that in the very long term, you're seeing the current city centers as, you know, Gamla-san, as the old town, and growth.
No.
You know, the center pushing outward.
No, not really, because I think that was also kind of part of the earlier question here, that how do we avoid then like that there will be like more like these like deserts around. I think that we expect to have more people here. I think that is kind of the thing, and then there will be fast connectivity all over the place, as kind of like Olli was covering there. So it's not this just happens to be the stations. We need the fast connection to the airport. Of course, we can make many different kind of assumptions that the air traffic will grow, which is probably like the most realistic assumption, no matter what actually. And then because there is just like massive pent-up demand, and China and India are only getting started. Of course, anything could happen, and the world could end tomorrow. I mean, we also of course need to plan for all kinds of like kind of like, let's say, nightmare scenarios, but and kind of like black swans. I mean, it could always happen. But I think that based on the best current understanding, I think that again, I mean, it's, you know, it's super tough to predict the future, so we're actually making it.
Well, of course, every interchange has maybe 20 minutes of the time, so like for...
No. Why would it be 20 minutes?
I mean, the quickest way to do it is if you look, for example, the Hyperloop, say it's got parts delivering onto a carousel that takes us right up the surface. But you're talking about like Texas Airport, change trains, hopefully it's quick, maybe across the platform. But, you know, these factors enter into the whole time. Okay.
So what would be the suggestion then?
I want to check the assumptions that it does really, the whole idea does seem to be driven by air travel. And Helsinki is the long haul hub, not Tallinn, not Riga, not Petersburg. It's concentrating on Helsinki, Vantaa. And yeah, just to bring that out, I mean, without the growth in air travel, without the role of China or Asian growth, the economic model is not so strong here. Maybe it's a key part of it, I think.
I don't think that the bulk of the traffic is not based on like the air travel, but it's kind of like it's part of the whole. So I think that again that it's not like an either or. So I think that it actually balances it out. That then it's like it's air travel and the intercity. So it's like not or, it's and.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not an architect, I'm not an engineer, so I'm not quite, I'm from real estate background, so I'm still fixated on the island, the city is built out of nothing. It is going to be born as a byproduct of the collaboration between Finland, Estonia, and the European Union and international finances. So I want to ask who is going to claim judicial ownership of the island, taxes, building codes, policing and enforcement.
So it's part of Helsinki.
Part of Helsinki.
Yeah.
Any further questions, comments?
How far the EU should participate, maybe in funding that project?
They just need to come and stay out of the way. So we're not expecting any funding from EU or the Finnish government or the Estonian government.
Why not? Why are not interested or why should participate?
We actually want to make this happen like in 5 years and not 50.
Yeah. We're expecting collaboration.
So Rail Baltica, is it there? No.
No.
Is it an EU project? Yes.
Yes.
By the way, this right now Estonian news writing this official scenario only 2030, so it can be possible to start building this feasibility.
But there is no official scenario.
Yes.
I mean there is official kind of like feasibility study, but there is no like official project. I mean we're not like an official project or anything like whatever that means. So I think that this is, and there is also there's been like media that there's competition and there's like different. I mean I don't see it as kind of like competition. I mean we work with the official like feasibility study project. We know what they're doing. There's people from that project here, and I think that again the ambition here is to make this happen ASAP and make this happen in the 20s, not in the 30s or 40s or whatever, because it makes sense. So our ambition here has to be, and I mean also like the previous question that okay, some of the assumptions, all that. So what we have built is something that we can justify and we can make it happen. I mean then of course anything could happen with air traffic and anything could happen. That's fair, but I think our objective here is to build something that is realistic and something that we can make happen and we can believe in. And then of course, like in any business, any company, in any project, I think the successful projects, the successful companies, successful nations are the ones that are able to quickly adapt to changing conditions. So if air traffic stops tomorrow, we'll figure it out. But as it's not expected to stop tomorrow, we don't need to deal with it. But if it happens, then we'll deal with it.
All in all, it sounds like a very good project. I'm kind of wondering to what extent, the Chinese already signed contracts about the 10 billion they might be putting down, and
So we haven't signed any papers, so we still like control our own destiny like totally.
Another one is, have they kind of funding the planet? Have they actually put money down yet, or is that?
No, we are doing this, the consortium right now. We have Pöyry, we have A-Insinöörit, we have Fira, we have the Finance Bay Area Development. So we are taking care of all the things.
With
so
our
far.
own money?
With our own money, yes.
Yes, gentlemen.
Yeah, thank you all for your patience and dedication to the presentation. My question is, why specifically 5 years? Why are you planning on 5 years? It's not just money, right?
No, 5 years was just like something that I made up like when I announced the project. And without knowing if it makes sense. And actually now I know that we could make it even faster, but 5 years is like pretty ambitious, I think. But again, it's ambitious, it's an aggressive schedule. I mean, also what is very aggressive is to start building this year. But that is also what we want to do is, again, we want to make it happen. So we are pushing for these things, to getting the permits, getting the funding, getting everything in place so that we can do that. So it's maybe something that learned from years and years working with startups and different projects. That, I mean, if you say that, oh, we'll make this happen sometimes in the 30s, then it might happen in the 30s or in the 40s. So I think that it's very important to have tight and very ambitious like deadlines, because then you have to make it happen. So there's kind of like no reason for the 5 years. That was just like, okay, can we make it in 5 years? Without even knowing it was possible. And now I know that it is. So, you know, 5 years is the plan, and we could probably make it faster or slower, but 5 years sounds like a reasonable time frame.
Sounds like a plan.
Sounds like a plan. And you know, like they have good experience of that in China, like 5-year plans. So, you know, like it's easy to sell. So yeah, why not?
The gentleman again.
If we're really enthusiastic about this area, how can we help?
So as I said, we have to create a bit more of like tools and like infrastructure so that we can actually cope with all of this. But right now, the easiest is just to like talk to one of us, and then we'll figure it out.
Yeah, I mean.
But right now we don't have like a formal process that this is how you apply and all of that. So we're like not heavy on like form in that. But right now, I mean, we try to get the word out and like share what we're up to and where we might you know, need help and you know, more ideas and all of that. So that's why we're here. So yeah, if you want to help, feel free.
One suggestion is like Aviapolis, that hasn't been planned at all.
Yeah.
Bring your ideas there. Take SketchUp, put them in Connect. Well, that's probably like we will put that available soon, so that's where
Yeah.
to put your ideas there. And that's like the first step.
And of course, when we open up our website, that will be like a collaboration platform to give ideas and give your name and so on.
But we will get there, but we, as I said, we don't have like everything we need in place yet. But you know, again, based on input like we got here, of course, reason why we're here is that we want to make it better. And I think that we have had some very good questions, very good discussions. So again, I mean, that's how we make this better. So thank you for that.
Talk to a politician, tell them you want this project to go through, and enough of people say it, it will.
Yeah, but I think that politicians are on board, so that's not like the problem at all. So.
Okay, that's great. Gentleman in the back.
Just to clarify, you talked about 17-meter diameter tunnels. So
Yeah.
One tunnel.
Huh?
One tunnel.
2 tunnels, 2 pipes, 17 meters. And the 70 meters, just that just happens to be like the current TPMs, what they do. We could even do bigger, but you know, 17 is like.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
About the island, of course you have to build the island anyways, you've got a lot of construction waste.
Yeah.
You want to build a city on it, I saw the sign Paradisi, okay, nice branding. Is that part of the financial model? You're going to sell that land and that becomes property of the entire project? This is a way to...
Yeah, let's say that it's potential upside for the project, yes.
So you would see that as remaining a company that operates both the transportation system and as a real estate company?
We see at least one potentially more than one, but yes, there needs to be an operating company that will operate this.
And also real estate, and at the two ends in Tallinn and Helsinki, of course, you're going to be adding the land value. Have you talked to municipalities about ways to capture that value add through taxation because normally these improvements do not result in additional taxes. The value increase that goes to property owners is not captured by the city or by the
yeah, but we're kind of like leaving that to the cities to figure out like their act on how to capture the value. But I think that they are here in Finland they're pretty good at doing that.
Yeah.
Like or let's say, I mean, depends on like what you view as kind of like good. But there are models in place, good and bad in that. But our plan, like we haven't really, for us, that's not kind of like part of the plan that we want to capture like massive value out of like the various like real estate developments and all of that. So.
Because there's always real estate speculation.
Yeah.
People that are politically connected get rich.
Yeah.
I don't know what the record was for Länsimetro on that, but you know that's a typical operating state.
Yeah. For example, in Espoo, the municipality will take like 40 to 60% of price that
the value
you will have from the land that you are selling that after planning. So municipalities are winners in this case also.
And that's been politically acceptable, that this 40% capture, that's...
No, but that's basically what the cities capture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is
and that's kind of like way of the land.
As opposed to just pure speculation and all value going to speculation.
Right, yeah. So the cities are plugged into that. So.
Already one deal which is in the court has not come out yet, which comes to one tall building planned by SRV. So let us see how it goes.
Yes, sorry. You said that you expect to get the money back from this project in 37 years, right?
Yeah, that's kind of like the time the project pays for itself, yes.
Yeah, so this is a 100-kilometer tunnel, and plus I believe that in this stage probably you don't have developed a plan for all the underwater structure, so how can you be just so sure about this? Because 37 is very specific, it's not around 40 or...
No, 37 is very specific, and that's just based on the cost of the project and the traffic predictions.
Yeah, but you don't have a full plan of...
No, but we have
water, right?
No, but we have our guesstimate of 15 billion, and then the same for like the traffic and the price for the ticket, done.
And if you
so kind of the thing here is that then of course if we come in at 13 billion or 9 billion, of course then the time is shorter. But now it's based on input is 15 billion, best possible guess, for building the whole thing, and then 20 million people over like a few years, that we grow that to the traffic to 20 million, ticket price 50. Very easy model, 37 years. And then okay, we have the cost for the like the interest and all of that. So that's why it's very specific, 37 years. But of course there are lots of variables, and who knows, maybe it's just like 13.2 billion, so it changes numbers.
Yeah.
But we have guessed that we can build the whole thing with like everything for like the 15 billion.
Yeah, and for example, this artificial island that is made by this.
But also what is very important, that the island and all that, that's not part of the calculation at all.
Yeah, okay. That was my point. So
Yeah.
there will be a different kind of money sources when we are developing this whole.
That's totally separate.
Yeah.
So again, that's not like part of the business case at all.
So the point is that it still works even as a own thing, but there will be a lot of help for that one.
Mika. Okay, my name is Mika Lindholm. I'm the head of this department, and I will tell you something about Metropolia. We have 2,000 students who are studying construction and real estate, and 15,000 more. And in my opinion, it sounds that even you are good, you need help. Can you use our students?
Of course.
2,000.
And I was going to say, but I was going to say that you only have mid-2000s will run out very quickly because, of course, this is not the only project in Finland. There are many more.
Yeah, right.
But this is actually very serious that there will be a big need for kind of like more people. And I think that we looked at actually together with I-Engineer Timo and all this that just the planning capacity needed to make the tunnel happen will eat up all the capacity in Finland. Just the tunnel. So that would mean that we could build nothing underground besides the tunnel. So of course that doesn't make any sense. So again, that's why we're working with again Chinese partners, other partners, so that we leave like a bit of planning capacity for other like potential underground construction projects, because there will be plenty of that kind of like happening in Finland and region. So 2,000 students is a good start, but probably there will be a need for you to educate even more.
Yeah, and in Fira, of course, we want to hire the best talents in real estate and construction. All the time needing new
and now Timo's still
Not him.
I would like to add.
I would like to add because Mika's question was very good, and also somebody earlier asked the same question, that how can you help?
Yes.
I would like to also add that actually you are helping us already, because you are asking very good questions.
Yes,
it helps
exactly.
us. We will receive the same kind of questions also later, and these questions by now have been very cool, so therefore you are helping us already.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's very good.
Young lady?
I want to ask concerning the
Go ahead, sorry.
I want to ask concerning the island, the development, concerning the structures that will be on it. What is the structure of the project? Does it the 50 billion euros? Does it involve the cost, or probably just develop the island?
Yeah. So again, the 15 billion is for the tunnel. There's nothing about the island there at all. So then and also the same kind of like model as applied to the like if you look at the West Metro project here, is that for every euro put underground, there's 10 euros invested above. So now when we have 15 billion, it means that there will be 150 billion in real estate development over the next like 10 or so years above ground.
Yeah.
So it's actually much bigger scale than what we're talking about here. So that's why I always say that the tunnel is just like kind of like a small piece of making this metropolitan area happen. So there will be massive construction projects enabled by the tunnel, but not just the tunnel, it's like for the whole metropolitan area, that when you have growth, more people, more apartments needed, more of everything. So that's kind of like the estimates that have been done in some of the studies, that just by creating the tunnel we will add between 1 and 3% to the GDP growth on both sides of the bay.
Peter, you can do the tunnel, we can do the rest.
Yes, yes. Very good, very good.
And engineers, there's also Space Nation too.
Yeah, but we'll get to that later. That's, we'll stay on this planet now for today, so yeah.
Yeah, and don't balk at the length of the tunnel, because the majority of the cost comes from the stations.
Yes.
So the actual tunnel building, and the expert next to me can correct me if I'm wrong, but actually the kind of the expensive part is the stations.
Yes.
There are not too many of them in this project. I mean, at least not yet, but let's see how many.
Yeah.
Competing stations. We'll have one here, one in Espoo, and one in Vantaa, and so on. But anyway, so the length of the tunnel is not really.
Yeah.
I mean, it
That's
has a certain cost, but the price goes down all the time as we're speaking.
Yes.
It's not going up. That's a good thing.
Gentleman in black in the back. You.
So, as a project manager, what is your immediate focus and immediate concern, and what would be the next milestone in this project?
Yeah, so I'm not like really the project manager, and actually I would say the guy who comes closest to that is Gustav, who already left, but I'll answer anyway. So I think that right now, top of our priority list is getting all the required permits in place, environment and like planning and all of these. So that is what is taking the most time. So that is kind of like now probably the biggest priority to get that, because that is actually what is kind of like impacting the timing the most. Then in parallel we're working on finalizing the funding. Then we're also starting to ramp up the organization, because now like the real planning starts. So that is something that we're doing. And then I mean there's ongoing evaluation of what technology should we use for like the physical construction, drilling the tunnel. There are a few competing technologies, some new very interesting opportunities there. So that's kind of like maybe top of my mind what we're working on right now.
So what would be the next milestone and what would be the next target date to achieve that milestone?
So during January we'll have the more detailed plan in place, and then over the next few months we'll get the permits in place, and then the next few months after that the funding in place, and then end of the year or during this year we'll start drilling.
Should you say something about the Shanghai tunnel group? Or?
No, it's, details. Yeah.
My student in the back.
Peter Vesterbacka and Consortium. Regarding the island, is that to be connected via the station of the train? Is it a river also acceptable to be connected via ferries? There will be a harbor on the...
Yes, of course. I mean the harbor and then I mean if you look at the design that we had there, of course you could have like for ferries, cruise ships. So I think that can become like a very popular destination. So again, being an entertainment island, you have like all the casinos and all of that kind of stuff. So it becomes like the Macau of Europe. So we will have tens of millions of people who just want to visit the island. They couldn't care less about Helsinki or Tallinn, but they take me to the island so I can kind of like go there and be entertained.
International waters then?
No, it's on the Helsinki or the Finland side. So we will need to like, again, agreement on various exceptions and things like that. But yeah.
Yeah.